Because if I say anything, I'm the angry black woman, I'm the militant, I'm ungrateful, I'm the EFF supporter. So you know what? I'm going to put my head down, I'm going to do what I need to do to survive. Come here to work. Coloured and Indian voices? Yes! Yeah? But let's be honest, when was your voice ever really of value, coloured and Indian voices? You know what I mean? When was it ever really of value? So you guys are coming into this and saying, I'm not going to talk, are you crazy? No, the whites and blacks have this different conversation. I am. Right? So here's the thing. We all feel completely voiceless. All of us. All of us. But we're too terrified to have the conversation.
But we are.
We are. With the safe spaces. And that's really what the last one is, the idea of the new protest. Make no mistake, we are all protesting. The protest just looks different. This is a protest. How you see me influences how you hear me, which means I'm going to surround myself by safety, because I'm worried about how I'm going to be perceived. And that's what we do. We lager ourselves. We surround ourselves by the people who support our opinion, sometimes venturing out to have a little tough conversation and retreating in. When we talk about leadership, and we talk about leadership protectionism, we are seeing it so many times. Leaders, particularly white men, who are just so scared. Race, gender, they're like, you know what, I don't know what to do, I'm just going to retreat. And we need them to be leaning in the most, right? So this is the space in which we occupy. We have to deal with all of these things when we're having these conversations, when we're doing this work. Can you guys see this protest, this retreat, as the fundamental reason why social cohesion is where it is? Because we're not engaging without being forced to, because we're just too scared. And it's time now that we sit with the discomfort of that anxiety, we actually start having the conversation, even though we don't know how to. Yeah. This is of critical importance for us. As you said, the foundations of any organization is actually really mistrust, and we need to start getting that correct. Any thoughts? How are you guys feeling? Right?
Getting some baby on this. Turn to the person on your right and left, give them a high five and say, I'm glad to be here.
Maybe not. I don't care.
Okay, alright. Still love you.
The three fundamental pillars of any organization, of any house. As you know, every house needs a little bit of TLC. It is no different for your organization. The three fundamental pillars of every house, your organization, is talent, leadership, culture. Now here's the thing. You guys have very sophisticated conversations around talent, leadership, and culture, but you have grade 2 level literacy when it comes to inclusion. Why? Because you think it's separate. You think that a talent discussion is separate to an inclusion discussion.
Yeah.
You think that a leadership discussion is separate to an inclusion discussion. You think that a culture discussion is separate to an inclusion discussion. Let me tell you something now. They are one and the same thing. That if we're not bringing in inclusion at every point around talent, leadership, and culture, we are dropping the ball, right? When we look at talent in particular, these are the talent trends we're seeing globally, right? Fourth Industrial Revolution. If I had another vomiting emoji, it would pop up now. Because I am tired of talking about the Fourth Industrial Revolution. But for sake of, fullness, what do you guys think the reaction is? The opposite reaction is to the Fourth Industrial Revolution of hypermechanization, AI, and automation. What is the counterbalancing factor? That's really what we're scared of. But how do we think about balancing the effects of the Fourth Industrial Revolution?
How do we reduce that unemployment?
Yeah. What do you think is important in a world of hypermechanization for us? Our humanity, our people skill. That is what is going to separate us. That is what is going to give us our competitive advantage. We have lawbots now that writes a will in the quarter of the time that a human can. But can an AI really console somebody and counsel somebody who's lost a loved one? No. The skills of the future are people skills, which is actually what we see when we're talking about skills of the future. What are the two skills of the future? There's actually a place called the Institute for the Future in Silicon Valley, if you can actually believe it. They say two fundamental skills of the future: cross-cultural competency, your ability to engage cross-culturally, and social intelligence. Right? These are fundamental to inclusion. Then we have this idea of a changing workforce, that actually this cappuccino is coming into the space, right? We have different talents, it looks different, there's different wants and needs, and we need to be ready for that and understand how to do it. When we talk about purpose, I love this so much. All the young millennials are coming in and saying, what is my purpose, right? It's very it's very people-orientated. Who am I? These are the trends that we're seeing. There's a call for inclusion. We heard a great story. So it was basically a young black woman being interviewed at an organization, right? It's going so well. HR there with senior partners going perfectly, right? They then say, as you know, the new interviewing trend, any questions you have for us? She said, yeah, what's your D&I strategy? What's your diversity and inclusion strategy? And they're like, yeah, no, maybe, right. She walks out of the interview, the partner says, what a stupid question.